Hello and happy St. Patty's Day. Today I am going to talk, got my green here, got my old University of Alberta hoodie. And I am going to share my opinion about the Russian-Ukraine situation. I'm going to give an analysis from a Christian perspective. I didn't want to do this offhand when it first started. I wanted to gather some thoughts, see some of how my fellow Catholics are reacting. Got some Gatorade here. Oh. So, and I wanted to give a good analysis of what's going on from since I know the Catholic faith well, and I also know quite a bit about Ukraine and Russia. I've not been to Russia. My parents have been there, but I've been to Ukraine. First, let me share my background. I do have a German last name. Hey, Kyle, what's up? So I do have a German last name, but my family, there were a lot of Germans in Eastern Europe prior to World War II. Now, they were expelled after the war. They were shipped to camps in Siberia. Luckily, my family got out of there in time. My dad's family is from Saratov in Russia. They moved there from Germany in the 1700s at the request of Catherine the Great. They're essentially in the Frankfurt area, and they moved to Saratov, about an hour outside of Saratov, to a small village called Yeganaya Polyana, which translates as Berry Glade. Yo, cousin Grant. Hello. God bless you. Nice seeing you. Say hi to the family for me. All right. So where am I? Okay. So then my dad's mom is from the former Soviet Union as well. She was now my dad's family got out in the early 1900s. So they didn't have what Joseph Stalin did to them in the 1940s. My dad's mom's family is from Ukraine, which was part of the Soviet Union. Again, they're German. They lived in a separate German colony in modern day Ukraine, just north of a city called Novograd-Volynsk, and the name of their town is called Varvarivka. That's my dad's side of the family, and I've been to that town. You know, I've gone through their school, the yearbook, the German names. So you have, that's my dad's side. My mom's side, is Polish Ukrainian, and they're from the Polish Ukrainian border area. That border has changed about 100 times. So like all over there. So I've got some skin in the game in terms of ethnically. And I've been to Ukraine. I've not ever been to Russia. I've been to Poland as well. Yes, Galicia. And my dad's mom's family is from Volhynia. So it's my land, you know, and my dad's family is from Saratov. But of course, ultimately, they're German as well. So anyway, I'm going to look at this from a Christian perspective. Now, amongst, of course, not that long ago, Putin invaded Ukraine, and the reason was he's scared of them joining NATO. That's at least the reason on the surface. Now, a thing that really troubles me about this whole thing amongst my fellow trad Catholics, hold on, I just got an email here. Okay. Amongst my fellow trad Catholics, there is this obsession with Russia and Vladimir Putin. There is this obsession, and it's because they think Putin is the based Christian leader. Let me tell you something about Vladimir Putin. this base Christian leader, Putin, is hold on. Is not a good leader. He's not this base Christian leader. He's a thug. And a good example of this is, but there are some people that some Catholics I know that just fanatically love Putin and Russia. And they say, well, he's anti-West, and that's true. Good for him. He's anti-gay rights. That's true. Good for him. Let's give credit where it's due, guys. But in terms of his country, let's take a look at Russia. Some of the highest divorce rates on the planet, highest HIV rates on the planet, among the highest, high abortion rates. Is that correct? And then you bring this up to these people, and these fanatic Catholic Putin lovers will say things like, well, they just came out of communism, and Poland just came out of communism, and they're doing way better in that stuff. And by the way, China's anti-West. China is anti-gay rights. Are they good? No, but Putin's this devout Christian leader, even though he's not. High divorce rates, high abortion rates, high HIV, very low church attendance rates in Russia, very low. So, yeah, there is nothing Christian about this guy. Now, I'm not defending Ukraine as a Christian country, because obviously a lot of that stuff is very similar in Ukraine. So, where are we? And the Catholics just defend this fanatically, like Putin is this noble Christian leader. And I understand that in Catholic prophecy, in private revelation, Russia comes up a lot. I understand that. So there's kind of a fascination. I understand that. But what you have to look at the end of the day, and by the way, I'm not defending Zelensky. I don't like that guy either. He's not a Christian leader. He doesn't even claim to be. He's a Jew who he has issues. I'm not going to lie. Zelensky has issues. But what we need to do at the end of the day, we need to look at, is this a just war or not? We have a doctrine called just war. I know Francis hates it. He actually believes it, Pope Francis, because he said the Allies should have bombed the railroads to the concentration camp. Well, that's a war activity. Now, he probably thinks it's a just war. Exactly. It's just, it's a just war. Long story short, and it's in the catechism, so it's part of our theology. And even if it wasn't in the catechism, it's still part of the theology. This is not a just war. If you look at the standards for a just war, what Putin's doing, it's not a last resort. It's not an ultimate goal to bring up peace. It's going to get a lot of people killed. And I don't know why Catholics are supporting this war, because it is not just. If you want to try to make a case in the live stream or in the comments below that this is a just war, be my guest. But obviously it isn't. Now, so from a Catholic perspective, this must be opposed. Seems the leftist media forgot Zelensky was the same guy who was in that call with Donald Trump that got Trump impeached. Well, that's the left. I'm not going to defend the left, because the left is so immoral. They're anyway, yeah, but they do use double standards. Anyway, the point is, using the just war, St. Augustine's just war theory, also in the catechism, 2309, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but just type into Google just war CCC, Catechism Catholic Church, and you'll find the paragraph. And this does not meet the just war. This is an unjust war. In fact, you could argue that Putin's war against Georgia in, what was it, 08, 09, was more just than this war. That war, I still don't believe it's a just war, but you can make more of a case for that one than this one, because there's a lot of beef there going with South Ossetia. Now, in the background of this, now, Both Russia and Ukraine are Eastern Orthodox countries. Traditionally, but they're very secular countries. They're very secular. Now, the big difference between a secularist in Russia or Ukraine versus a secularist in France or Germany is that in France and Germany, they hate Christianity. They hate it. Again, I'm generalizing. Whereas if you talk to a secularist in Ukraine or Russia, they're indifferent to Christianity. They don't believe it. But these countries are very secular countries. In fact, if a certain Eastern Orthodox YouTuber and his catechumen apologist followers went to Russia and say, "Hey, we converted to your church," the Russians would probably laugh at them and be like, "You actually believe in that stuff?" Now, I'm not knocking the Orthodox Church. I'm knocking Russia, who doesn't give a flip about that church, because they're essentially a godless country, and I'd say large extent Ukraine as well. Now, there are some Catholics in Ukraine, in the west of Ukraine, and they are more devout than the members of the Orthodox Church, but they're not overly devout. They're more in the Orthodox, but they certainly have issues. And historically, Russia has been an anti-Christian country. Now, we talk about communism. Obviously, they were anti-Christian, but even prior to communism, the Tsar had abolished the Patriarchate of Moscow and essentially ran the Orthodox Church. It was essentially an arm of the state. And of course, the Tsar abolished the Greek Catholic communities in modern-day Belarus in, I believe, started in the late 1700s, and the last one was in 1875. The last eparchy was dissolved by the Tsar. And in fact, in I can't remember what year, in the early 1900s, when the Tsar was still in power, they sent an envoy to the Vatican. He got an audience with Pope Pius X. Amazing Pope, by the way. He's a saint. Canonized in 1954, I believe. Anyway, amazing Pope. He gave the Russian guy heck because how horrible they were to the Catholic Church. Oh, this is the based Christian nation. No, it's largely a godless nation. I'm not saying there aren't true believers in Russia. Obviously, there's true believers in every country in the world. But in terms of this, it's gone completely. In fact, a priest I know, I live close to a Russian Orthodox church. The priest gave a homily there once during the liturgy, and he said that in 1917, the year of the revolution, church attendance was super low, and most Christians in Russia were only getting communion one time a year. So, like during the Pascha season, Pascha, same as Easter, they would get their communion, and then that would be all. That would be their whole year. That's not a true believer. You're only taking it once a year. You should take it at least once a year, but obviously, if you can, take it more. Now, so I wanted to say that Russia and Putin aren't the base Christian nation. So stop this fascination, Catholics, with Putin, and use the just war doctrine and realize that this is not a just war. Now, in the background of all of this, remember, this is my analogy from a theological perspective, specifically Catholic. In the background of all of this, in the faint background, is the current schism in the Orthodox Church between the Patriarch of Moscow and the Patriarch of Constantinople. Basically, the Orthodox Church is being torn in half now, and it's basically over the jurisdiction in Ukraine. Now, as I pointed out, Ukraine, I've been to Ukraine. I've been to the Ukrainian-speaking portions. I've been to Odessa, which is a Russian-speaking portion. It's weird if you go to Odessa because all the private company signs are in Russian, but all the government signs are in Ukrainian. And if you know those two languages, you can tell the difference in the signs. But the sad thing about this schism is they're tearing their church apart, fighting over empty churches. Like I said, Ukraine is a very secular country, extremely secular. The churches in Ukraine are empty, both the Moscow Orthodox churches and the Constantinople Orthodox churches. They're completely empty. Not completely, but very empty. And so it's sad. So I don't know if Putin ends up owning Ukraine and making it part of Russia. It puts he's obviously going to, it's not priority one for him, but eventually he's going to want to kick Constantinople Eastern Orthodoxy out of Ukraine. And eventually, I don't think Putin will do this, but maybe a successor will. I don't think Putin is super anti-Catholic or anything. I don't even think he's anti-Catholic. He's because apparently he was pretty close with Cardinal Ratzinger, who talking about him in his books. Apparently, Putin is fluent in German. And of course, the 3 or 4 million Greek Catholics in Western Ukraine will be in danger. I don't think Putin will hurt them, but possibly a new ruler one day who will come up, and he might pose a danger to them. These people that go to church far more than their various Eastern Orthodox counterparts. Like if you go to Lviv, which is a Ukrainian Catholic city, you can see it's more developed than if you go to like Kiev or Odessa or Chernivtsi. I've been to those 3 cities, but so let me conclude, and then I'll take some questions if you have any. This war, Putin is not a base Christian ruler. He's a thug, probably a godless thug, but a thug nevertheless, who's violating just war doctrine. And by the way, just war doctrine comes from a common saint, Saint Augustine, who's Catholic and Orthodox saint, despite how much the Neo-Palamites hate Augustine. So what we need to know is that it's not a just war. It is not a just war in the slightest. And ultimately, the big losers theologically of this are going to be the Constantinople Orthodox Church, and eventually the Greek Catholic of Western Ukraine. They're in danger. And by the way, Catholics, I don't know a Catholic bishop out there who supports Putin in this war. All the Catholics I know are against Putin. And there's a lot of Russians against Putin. There are mass demonstrations in every major city. But of course, Putin's cracking down on that. Okay. 18 minutes. All right. Throw the questions at me. I'll take a few and then I'll sign off. I just wanted to give my take on that. Here's one from Kyle Marks. Alan Rule, do you believe that China will use this as a distraction so they can take control of Taiwan? I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about that. Certainly a possibility. Look what they did to Hong Kong. Now, keep in mind, it's a bit different because Hong Kong was an SAR, Special Administrative Region, meaning although they were part of China officially, they were autonomous in a lot of ways. In some ways, they had their own laws that pertain only to Hong Kong. Like if you go to mainland China, it's not the same type of laws. Same with Macau and maybe 1 or 2 other places. However, Taiwan is not a part of China. It's 0 part of China. But will they try to take control? I don't know enough about that. But it's certainly a possibility, seeing how China has behaved. They're a bunch of evil thugs, China. I agree. Putin is a wicked demon. Nicely done, St. Dennis. What do you think of the Patriarch of Moscow supporting this war? Okay. The Patriarch of Moscow is more or less an arm of the Russian state and kind of always has been. It's sad, I know. Keep in mind, the Orthodox Church never had the investiture controversy like the Catholic Church did. And same with Constantinople. That guy's essentially an arm of Turkey. Sad, I know. Turkey's not even Christian. It's Muslim, but they've essentially been an arm of Turkey and pre-Ottoman prior to that for like 500 years. In fact, after Constantinople falls to the Turks, Sultan Mehmet the Conqueror, one of the most evil men who ever lived, appointed the patriarch for the Orthodox Church in Constantinople. He invested him with his power. That's not how Christianity is supposed to work. God bless the investiture controversy and Gregory VII and all the other people who were involved in that. All right, more questions. Have you read War and Delusion by Laurie Calhoun? No, I haven't. What's it about? Just tell me what it's about. I got a lot on my reading list, so I probably won't get to it anytime soon. Alan Rowe, I've heard about biolabs in UK can train diseases or pathogens or whatever it is. Thoughts? I don't know. I don't know who to trust. I don't trust the Western media. I don't trust the Russian media because I watch their stuff too. I can understand it. I understand Russian. So I don't know who. Now I do got a couple friends who are in Ukraine right now, including a young lady I know in Eastern Ukraine. I won't say the city she's in, but she's in Eastern Ukraine. She's not in the Donbass. I know a girl, a friend of mine is from the Donbass, but she's here. So, so I'm trying to get reports from the people I know there, because that's the only people I trust. I don't trust the media or nothing. All right. Michael Nodden, it's just a modern critique of the just war theory. It's an interesting take. So is it kind of like from a pacifist perspective or kind of like a neocon perspective? I'm guessing since it's called War and Delusion, it's a pacifist perspective. But all these people that are against just war are actually for just war. They don't think about it because a lot of people think just war is now there are people who engage in unjust war and try to pass it off as a just war. That's true, but that's an abuse. Any good thing can be abused. And it's kind of like John Paul II didn't like the death penalty because he grew up under Nazi occupation, under communist occupation, places that abuse the death penalty. Any good thing can be abused. So, so that's what we need to remember. I believe in just war theory. It's in the catechism as of 2022. And these people who say they don't believe in it actually believe in it. All right. Off topic, but do you have Eric Ybarra's Filioque book? About halfway through myself. No, I don't have that book. I've got a lot. I'm trying not to purchase new books. I'm trying to read the ones I have sitting on my shelf. And I've actually made some good progress on that, but so I won't be reading that anytime soon, but I do plan on reading it. In fact, I had him on my channel to talk about the Filioque. So, all right, are there any more questions or comments? Are there any Putin supporters who want to say something here? Oh, by the way, I should mention that I'm a fan of Russian literature. This is a book by Dostoevsky, The Gambler. You know, there's a lot of things I like about Russia, but it's not a place of faith. It's a place of nationalism. It's a place of state-controlled church. That includes now, that includes under communism, that includes under the czar. The church is essentially an arm of the state. It's very disturbing. Again, it's a shame that the church didn't have, because around the same time as the Catholic and Orthodox split, the Catholic Church in the West had the investiture controversy, which was amazing. I love the investiture controversy. My favorite pope of all time is Pope Gregory VII. He's an amazing pope. He's my favorite pope. And one of the reasons is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but the investiture controversy, Canossa. Google Hildebrand Canossa Henry IV. Henry IV. He is like the Putin of that day. All right, guys, I'm going to go 30 minutes and I'm going to kill the stream at 30 minutes. 3.5 minutes left to make comments or questions. And then I'm going to kill the stream. If there's no comments, I'll talk about something else. Well, what should I talk about? I'm drinking Gatorade. Yeah, so I don't know who I'm going to have on my channel next. But I'm planning things out. I'm probably going to do a book review coming up soon. I'm currently reading some hagiography. If you want an overview of the Crusades, Thomas Madden's book, Concise History of the Crusades. It's not a primary source. If you want primary sources, start with Fauchet of Chartres. All right, Alan Earl, what about China's control of the Catholic Church there? It appoints a bishop. Yeah, it does, because Francis is spineless, and he's abandoned them to the wolves. We had an investiture controversy for a reason. Now, in all fairness, there's not a lot of Catholics in China. But still, if you are a Catholic in China, be worried, because they're appointing your bishops who even knows that they're properly consecrated. Yeah, no, he basically he's abandoning the sheep to the wolves. I mean, it's a tough time. We have the worst pope in the history of the church on the chair, Peter, now. It does not mean he's an invalid pope. It just means he's a bad pope. All right. Any more questions? Less than 2 minutes, guys. And then I'm killing the stream. I'm killing it right at 30 minutes. I'm waiting. Yeah. So, long story short, I'm going to summarize this stream. Putin is not a based Christian ruler. He's a thug, and he's engaging in an unjust war. Despite the things Putin's right on, he's right on some things, but he's wrong on some things too. And it's an unjust war. That's what we need to follow at the end of the day. I don't care how anti-West you are. And again, I don't trust Zelensky either. Oh, thank you, Kyle. It's a good thing you ratify my stream. I don't like Zelensky either, but his country is being unjustly invaded because they don't meet the just war criterion. And again, Russia, if they take control of Ukraine, they're going to kick out Constantinople Orthodox and eventually persecute the Greek Catholic population there. My mom is a Greek Catholic. She's from that part of the world. Like I said, Polish-Ukrainian border. I'm going to end the broadcast in a few seconds. So I hope you enjoyed it, and God bless, and stop supporting Putin and Russia. They're not Christian. God bless.